I was alone again. It wasn't something new, just the same familiar emptiness that had filled my days and nights for longer than I cared to admit. My name is Margaret, and for years, I'd lived in a big, beautiful house surrounded by all the comforts money could buy. But what good was wealth when there was no one to share it with? I had lost contact with my family long ago, not through any dramatic falling out, but rather through the slow erosion of time, distance, and the misunderstandings that seemed too trivial to resolve at the time but had somehow become insurmountable barriers. I had tried everything to bridge the gap between us. Phone calls that went unanswered, letters that were never returned, even a few awkward visits that ended in polite but distant conversations. Each attempt left me feeling more isolated, more convinced that the connections I once had were lost forever. And so, I resigned myself to my solitary life, convincing myself that it was enough. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I longed for the warmth of family, the laughter, the shared memories, the sense of belonging that only comes from being surrounded by those who know you best. It was during one of those long, lonely nights that I stumbled across Neville Goddard's teachings. I had been browsing the internet, looking for anything that might distract me from the gnawing loneliness, when I found a video about manifestation. At first, I was skeptical. The idea that you could change your reality just by changing your thoughts seemed too simple, too good to be true. But the more I listened, the more intrigued I became. Goddard spoke of the power of imagination, of living in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, of assuming the state of the person you wanted to become. It was all about shifting your mindset, seeing the world not as it was, but as you wanted it to be. I watched video after video, read article after article, immersing myself in the world of manifestation. The more I learned, the more I realized that this was something I had never tried before. I had always approached life with a sense of practicality, believing that hard work and perseverance were the keys to success. But Goddard's teachings offered a different path, one that relied not on effort, but on belief, on faith in the power of the mind to shape reality. I decided to give it a try. What did I have to lose? I started small, imagining little things, a good night's sleep, a pleasant conversation with a neighbor, a day without the ache of loneliness. And to my surprise, these things began to happen. It wasn't magic, just a subtle shift in my perception, a gentle nudge toward a more positive outlook. Encouraged by these small successes, I decided to try something bigger. I began to imagine my family. I pictured them reaching out to me, calling me, visiting me. I saw us sitting together in my living room, talking, laughing, reconnecting. I felt the warmth of their presence, the joy of being surrounded by loved ones. I tried to live in that feeling, to hold on to it throughout the day, even when reality seemed to suggest otherwise. It wasn't easy. Doubt crept in, telling me that this was just wishful thinking, that nothing would change. But I pushed those thoughts aside, reminding myself that this was about belief, about faith in the process. I spent weeks in this state, visualizing, feeling, believing, even when there was no outward sign that anything was different. And then, one day, it happened. I was sitting in my kitchen, sipping my morning coffee, when the phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but something told me to answer it. On the other end was my niece, Emily. We hadn't spoken in years, but there was no awkwardness in her voice, no hesitation. She told me that she had been thinking about me, that she missed me, and wanted to see me. We made plans to meet for lunch that weekend. It was a small thing, a single phone call, but it felt monumental. It was the first crack in the wall that had separated me from my family for so long. That weekend, as I sat across from Emily at a cozy little cafe, I felt a sense of connection that I hadn't felt in years. We talked for hours, catching up on everything we had missed. There were no hard feelings, no resentment, just a mutual desire to reconnect, to rebuild what had been lost. Over the next few weeks, more calls followed. My sister, my brother, even my estranged cousin, all reached out to me, as if some invisible barrier had been lifted. I invited them over for dinner, and soon my once empty house was filled with the sounds of laughter, conversation, and the warmth of family. It was like a dream come true, but it wasn't a dream. It was the result of my deliberate, intentional efforts to change my reality through the power of imagination and belief. Neville Goddard's teachings had shown me a way out of my loneliness, a way to reconnect with the people I loved, and I was forever grateful for that. As the weeks turned into months, our family gatherings became a regular occurrence. We celebrated birthdays, holidays, and just ordinary days together. My house, which had once felt so empty, was now filled with life and love. And as I looked around at my family, I couldn't help but marvel at how much had changed in such a short time. But it wasn't just my external circumstances that had changed. I had changed too. I had learned to let go of doubt, to trust in the power of my thoughts, to live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. I had learned that reality is not something that happens to us, but something we create with our minds. I continued to practice manifestation, not just for my relationships, but for every aspect of my life. I manifested good health, financial abundance, and a sense of peace and contentment that I had never known before. And as I did, I found that life became easier, more joyful, more fulfilling. Looking back, I realized that the years I had spent in loneliness were not wasted. They had taught me something valuable, something I might never have learned otherwise. The power of the mind, the importance of belief, and the incredible potential we all have to create the life we want. And so, as I sit here today, surrounded by my family, I feel a deep sense of gratitude. Not just for the life I have now, but for the journey that brought me here, for the lessons I learned along the way, and for the realization that anything is possible when you believe in yourself and the power of your mind. The weeks continued to unfold with a sense of new beginnings. As my family and I began to rebuild our connections, I found myself reflecting on the changes that had come into my life. The house, which had once seemed so large and empty, now buzzed with energy and warmth. Family gatherings became a regular occurrence, and I relished every moment of them. We celebrated not just the holidays and special occasions, but the everyday triumphs and simple joys that make life meaningful. One evening, as I sat in the living room surrounded by my family, I couldn't help but think about how different things were just a few months ago. I had been isolated, convinced that my life would remain in this lonely state. Yet, through the practice of Neville Goddard's teachings, I had manifested a reality that was richer and fuller than I had ever imagined. It was a testament to the power of belief, to the ability to reshape one's life through the power of imagination and faith. As my family and I grew closer, I noticed other areas of my life beginning to shift as well. My financial situation, which had been stable but uninspired, began to flourish. I had always been prudent with money, but I started to attract more opportunities, both personal and professional. It was as if the shift in my emotional state had opened the floodgates to a wealth of new possibilities. Projects I had previously put off were now coming to fruition, and I found myself engaged in exciting new ventures that brought me both satisfaction and success. One of the most profound changes was the deepening of my relationships with each family member. The time we spent together was filled with genuine connection and understanding. Conversations that once felt strained or superficial became meaningful exchanges where we shared our dreams, fears, and aspirations. The emotional distance that had grown between us was gradually replaced with a sense of closeness and unity. As the months turned into a year, I found myself contemplating the next steps in my journey. The realization that I had the power to shape my reality had given me a newfound sense of purpose. I was no longer just waiting for life to happen to me. I was actively creating the life I wanted. I began to explore new interests and passions, taking up hobbies that I had long neglected. I started volunteering at a local animal shelter, a cause that had always been close to my heart. The joy I felt from helping animals in need was indescribable, and it added another layer of fulfillment to my life. I also reconnected with old friends, reaching out to those I had lost touch with over the years. The process of reconnecting was both exhilarating and humbling. It reminded me that relationships are a two-way street, and that reaching out with an open heart can mend even the deepest of rifts. One day, as I was walking through the park near my home, I saw a familiar face, a childhood friend I hadn't seen in decades. We recognized each other instantly and spent the afternoon catching up on lost time. It was a reminder of how interconnected our lives are and how the act of reaching out can bring about unexpected and beautiful reunions. Throughout all of this, the principles of Neville Goddard's teachings continued to guide me. I made it a practice to visualize not just the outcomes I desired, but the emotions associated with them. I would spend time each day feeling the gratitude and joy of having my family back in my life, of living a life filled with purpose and abundance. This daily practice became a cornerstone of my life, reinforcing the belief that what we focus on expands and that our thoughts truly do shape our reality. As the years went by, my life continued to evolve in ways I had never imagined. My family remained a central part of my life, and our bonds grew stronger with each passing day. I continued to pursue my passions, finding new ways to contribute to my community and make a positive impact in the world. My financial situation remained robust, allowing me the freedom to explore new ventures and opportunities. Reflecting on my journey, I realized that the key to transformation was not just in the external manifestations, but in the internal shift that occurred. The process of manifesting my desires had taught me the importance of self-belief, patience, and the power of focused intention. It had shown me that the life we dream of is not some distant fantasy, but a potential reality that exists within us, waiting to be brought forth through our thoughts and feelings. In the end, my story is a testament to the power of the mind and the incredible capacity we all have to shape our destinies. Through the practice of manifestation and the principles of Neville Goddard, I transformed my life from one of isolation to one of connection, abundance, and fulfillment. And as I continue on this journey, I carry with me the profound understanding that our reality is not fixed but fluid, ever-changing, and responsive to the power of our beliefs.